Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today I have something very awesome for you guys that are more classic old school Yu-Gi-Oh players. So what we're going to be seeing is what I would consider a more modern Yu-Gi-Oh deck, right? Like Invoke Shaddolls, while they aren't like super new in the terms of like they just came out this year, I would consider it more of a newer deck, especially if you're looking at what the heck this guy is playing, named Shaq over here. He is playing an old school, classic Yu-Gi-Oh burn variant deck. And it's all about really just making so your opponent cannot be able to attack. This is something I saw last night while I was like just browsing some of the games, and this one was really awesome. I joined actually halfway through, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this post commentary over here. I mean, this guy's straight up running cassette type. The guy actually uses the app cologne to negate Fire Princess so he can't take the burn damage. I mean, he's got Messenger of Peace over here. This is like an old school Yu-Gi-Oh deck for sure. And you don't see too many of these players this day and age, especially on EDO Pro, as it's a newer application. Maybe if you play it online on maybe like the Xbox 360 and the Yu-Gi-Oh games, sometimes it can be even difficult to find players from some like the super old Yu-Gi-Oh games to play online. And that's because the game has definitely evolved. There's newer games out. And again, these players that are playing Gravity Bind, Level Limit Area B in 2021, that is more rare than getting double shiny Pokemon in a row. Like, it's so impossibly hard to find some of these like classic Yu-Gi-Oh players. Like, low-rated duelists is so hard to do these days because there's just not that many casual or old school Yu-Gi-Oh players just that exist in the game. Especially, watch how many turns this game is going to have. In fact, I was actually doing some live commentary like halfway through on this game. And originally I was going to record half of it because I did join late, then do the other half. But like, dude, it's going to be like an hour long. So doing the replays is going to make it much faster. But it's funny to see, you know, what players actually can lose to over here. So like, I still can't believe how this guy actually ends up losing. It's pretty amazing. I won't spoil it for you guys. But at the same time, I love seeing underdog, decks do well. That's just kind of what I consider to be fun. And it's a little bit different. So if you were looking for like a meta game today, I would say Shaddolls are definitely a little bit more meta than obviously like Level Limit Area B, Gravity Bind in 2021. But at the same time, it's not going to be like the most meta, I would say. Shaddolls are still like a viable deck to play. Again, look what he's playing, dude. Dancing Fairy? Like, there's no way that you would think that an Invoke Shaddol deck would like have any chance at losing versus this deck. But you'll be surprised to see what happens in this duel over here. As cards like Gravity Bind, Level Limit Area B, they were already outclassed when the Exceed monsters came out, you know, the cards that you'd stack on top of each other. And then Links obviously get around the whole mechanic of this. Wall of Revealing Light still technically does work, and still an okay-ish card. It does last forever. And I think this also shows that, you know, any deck that doesn't have any background destruction, because we're so focused in on, you know, negating monster effects and getting out cards, we kind of forget about back row hate. That's why like Mystic Mine is such a powerful card this day and age in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just because it's really difficult to play cards like MST or Duster or any of these other cards. Well, MST is just outclassed simply. Twin Twisters even. A lot of these other cards just don't seem to be played because like turn one, they don't throw up negates. Like, you need that in most decks to be able to consider viable. And I thought at this point, I'm like, okay, he's gonna be stopping the effects of his face-up cards, Gravity Bind. I'm like, okay, he's probably going to be losing. He still happens to have the wall because it was bounced back, so he'll have to pay the life points again, as it doesn't like remember it from your hand. You have to pay when you activate the card, which is something you also have to consider. And at this point, I think I joined at turn 17 is where I joined this, and I was like, dude, does anyone think this guy has a chance? Like, I didn't think Shaq would have a chance, you know, at all, versus again what would be considered more of a meta deck. But you know, don't count the underdog always out. Sometimes you just have to stick it out for like the 40 turns that this game is about to last over here. But anyways, he's got Fire Princess, and at this point I was like, okay, he's pretty much good to go. A lot of Shaddol decks don't happen to have like multiple copies of the app cologne over here, so he's not going to have access to going for multiples. It depends also if you play like Super Poly or whatnot, because your extra deck might be clogged up with other things, especially when you're playing Invoke. There's a lot of other cards you would kind of like to run, but he's actually going to be getting rid of the Fire Princess, and I'm like, oh, okay, he's kind of out now. He needed that card as well. Again, level B just doesn't really affect a lot of stuff in the game. Cards like Messenger of Peace, well, unfortunately, since you have to pay all those life points, sometimes it can kind of hurt you. Dude, the guy is playing Solemn Wishes in 2021. And when this card came out, I remember back in the day when my friend played this card, and I thought it was the most OP thing ever. Like, I know, like, you know, obviously it's not good at all. It's not, it never was OP. But, you know, like, as a little kid, you see these things, or if you're like a beginner Yu-Gi-Oh player, and you start seeing these reoccurring effects of, like, I get this every single turn. You're just like, oh my gosh, I gotta get rid of it. And I remember as soon as I saw I was like, okay, I gotta heavy storm that card. Otherwise, it starts adding up. Like, logically, you'd think that, you know, you want to get rid of it ASAP, but like, it doesn't matter. Almost every monster, even back in the day, would attack over. This is when I was a Yu-Gi-Oh scrub, and before someone comments, you're still a Yu-Gi-Oh scrub in the comments, I'm gonna thumbs down that comment. Okay, anyways, he's also got Cure Mermaid. So as long as the card remains up on your field, you get to increase your life rate. So like, at the end of the day, it's like some like type of burn stall deck. But the fact that he's actually playing, and the guy's actually running some of like the newer, you know, Shadal cards, like the Nymph Shadal Genius, which is like an okay-ish card. You can target effect monster. And again, remember, like, everything is trying to negate like effects, but like this old school Yu-Gi-Oh player, Swords of Revealing Light, like, did you even expect to see this? I did not expect to see, first off, this duel even happen. Second off, the result of the winner of this duel will surprise you. Anyway, so Golden Ladybug getting that bonus effect. This is what I would consider a little bit, it came out at LODT, so like that's still like pretty old, but it's newer definitely than like Solemn Wishes, like Swords Revealing Light. So the guy has kind of updated his deck just a little bit over here, but we're going to continue going on over here. He can't really do anything with most of his monsters because remember, Wall of Revealing Light is there and he's got swords, so he's going to go ahead and stop that Wall of Revealing Light from existing, but that's okay. He's going to go ahead and Goblin Thief, heal up, and do a little bit of burn damage to his opponent here. But he hasn't really done too much burn. That's because like all the Fire Princes, he's gotten rid of them. Kassetai is a pretty troll card. I thought that card was good back in the day, but it doesn't work like you think it would, or same thing with like Brain Jacker. You actually have to like stall with it, then flip it up to get that actual effect that you want. And dude, this guy hearted the card. The guy's like, he's like, dude, I'm going for game right now, and he hits him up with a Mirror Force. Shaq is secretly Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, this is why I love sometimes watching these duels, because Mirror Force, it's a classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Card. Like, I did not expect to see, again, any of these Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards see play. Maybe some variant of Messenger of Peace, but again, the problem is that it's just a card where it gets like, technically some people can run things that can attack on nerve, but usually just want to prevent all attacks, and like cards like Wall of Revealing Light are just outclassed because not only do you have to pay for it, but it has to like linger on the field, and once your opponent knows exactly what deck you're playing, they're going to save up, pop that card, then go for game. And he tried to get rid of the effects of face up. Level Area B is negated, Gravity Bind is negated, but he still got a Swords of Revealing Light. So like, good back row could be the answer, and it's funny because Gravity Bind actually does work quite well along with Level Element Area B against like any fusion-oriented deck, right? Obviously, we play some links, you don't have to worry about like either one of these, and that's why, again, these are really outdated. So he's got 23,000 life points, our underdog, aka Shaq over here, but Yanti still hasn't given up. A lot of times when people see these decks, they don't want to play against it because it's just either you face roll them or the game is very painful, but sometimes I'm sure you guys have felt this way too, when someone's playing a bad deck and you're like, I could leave this game, but I'm gonna smash him. Like, I don't know, it's just like instinctively, that's how I feel about some of the decks. If they don't, you know, if they're playing some like Exodia deck, usually I don't want to play against them, but I'm just like, I want to beat this guy. I don't know, I just get that feeling. But anyways, he's also got Soul Absorption. He actually decks out his opponent. Shaq decked out Yanti, his entire deck. He didn't even burn him to death with this old school Yu-Gi-Oh deck. The old school Yu-Gi-Oh deck that you would not expect to see in 2021 takes the game. The only person I think that could beat Shaq is probably Aaron Carter, so call him up. Shout outs to you if you actually understand that joke, because a lot of you guys are probably too young to know what I'm talking about. But Shaq gonna be taking that W. And I was curious to see like what was actually in his deck. So let's go ahead and hop into the deck profile. So here was Shaq's deck. It's pretty much an old school Yu-Gi-Oh deck. I remember seeing like all these classic Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I got so excited when I hopped in. I didn't get to see it in the gameplay. You know, Raging Flames Front. But I remember I thought this card was so good. I'm like, it attacks directly and it gets like, all you need to do is attack twice and then it becomes super OP. But realistically at the end of the day, you're not going to get like what a Drill Bond or call Raging Flames Sprite. These cards just, they're classic Yu-Gi-Oh cards to me as a Yu-Gi-Oh player. I'm sure a lot of you guys remember Solar Flare Dragon. Like, I thought this card was OP when you have double Solar Flare Dragon. Like, he even had UFO Turtle. Like, he was trying to set this play up, which if you guys didn't know, this is an old school Yu-Gi-Oh lockdown. Double Solar Flare Dragons would make it so your opponent literally just can never attack. And then you can do 1,000 burn damage every single time, and I thought that was really cool. Then he's also got the Dancing Fairy, which is just more heal. So it's like a heal burn deck. There is one card that would be considered a newer Yu-Gi-Oh card, which we'll get into, but it wasn't even used in the gameplay, so like I'm totally fine with it. And the funny thing is, he only played 2 copies of. Why? I don't know. It would make the deck much better if you just maxed out on it. But like, dude, he's playing Solemn Wishes and Swords of Revealing Light in 2021. Like, he actually won because of Swords. It actually stalled his opponent out, which I'm honestly super impressed by. In fact, you could probably loop Swords Revealing Light, bouncing it back to your hand. There's probably a lot of cards that would let you, like, when you declare attack or something, you bounce back card. There's probably ways to loop Swords, but like, is it realistic to do that? Probably not, because your opponent's just gonna have so many like negate effects that it goes off. I mean, the guy he had Makaba in the extra deck. He had the Al Capone to go ahead and get rid of the stuff, but he just messed up, I think, several times. He even tried to push with the El Shaddoll Fusion, and it's just funny to see what I would consider a more competitive Yu-Gi-Oh player. While I wouldn't say Shaddolls are, again, #1 spot in competitive, they are 100% more competitive than this deck. But I'm going to give you Shaq's down profile over here. But he's playing some, he got Dancing Fairies, some Solar Flare Dragons. He's got the Cure Mermaid, the UFO Turtles for the combo with the Fire Princess, who it helps out with the extra burn damage. So it's like a fire burn deck. This card is terrible. Don't actually run this card. It has to attack it and face down, and then it has to become an equip spell card. And I believe that during each of your opponent's standby phases, you get increased life. It's so bad though. There's also a card called like Brain Tracker that actually has to be flipped face up. I'm not 100% sure if they've updated this card to text, but from what I remember, at one point you had to like attack it, and it couldn't be destroyed by that battle. So you'd have to like Wabaku it. It says no damage calculus conducted. I think that's a newer form of the text. Like I said, it could have gotten like rotted or changed. But I remember back in the day, like it would not be you set it, attack it, and you get to equip it. It was like, no, it had to not be destroyed by battle, then you get that effect. It was terrible. But you know, was this back in Upper Deck? I don't know. Anyways, Golden Ladybug, he healed up for so much. The Goblin Thief in 2021. This is an old school Yu-Gi-Oh card too. This is like 2004. So this is well over. This is like 15 years old of a Yu-Gi-Oh deck. I mean, dude, look at Goblin Thief's big bank in there. If you know what I'm talking about. This card should be censored over here. Dang, he's definitely got a big bank. Anyways, Swords of Revealing Light. That's a classic Yu-Gi-Oh card. Like, no one runs this. It is such a classic, Yu-Gi-Oh card for sure. The same thing with like Mirror Force. You can play double Mirror Force. Sometimes people that are like this old school with Yu-Gi-Oh, they'll just one-run copy of Mirror Force because they think it's at 1. They like, they don't look at like, the numbers here. They're just like, yeah, Mirror Force is at 1. You can't play 2. You got Level Limiter B, Messenger P, Soul Absorption. Interesting choice over here for sure. So this is the new Yu-Gi-Oh card. I didn't see any play, so like I don't even really mind that. But this is a card as a scumbag card. We'll just take it out. Okay, we're good. We got Mirror Force, Wall of Green Light, Solemn Wishes, and Gravity Bind. Again, these cards you just don't see at all. This card actually was like pretty cool for stall decks way back in the day, but nowadays in Yu-Gi-Oh, it doesn't really matter. There's a lot of hate for level 4 monsters back in the day, like was it 4-star Ladybug? A lot of classic Yu-Gi-Oh cards at the end of the day. But anyways, that's gonna go ahead and wrap things up. Let me know, guys, if you guys like these more classic Yu-Gi-Oh duels where we see like a classic deck face off against a meta deck. It has to do slightly well though. Like obviously it's more hype if the guy wins playing like the underdog deck. So this underdog classic Yu-Gi-Oh deck with cards that you just don't see anymore. It's just, I like that idea, and I almost want to turn it into a series, but I want your guys' feedback. So if you guys like this series, drop a like on it and like let me know, guys, what you think of it. I'll still upload maybe even if some of these decks lose, but it has to be like a good match. And honestly, these decks have no chance 99% of the time. So like I said, this is rarer than a double shiny Pokemon back to back. But anyways, thanks for tuning, guys. And if you enjoyed it, like I said, drop a like on it, give me guys feedback, or if you guys want me to like do something in this series in the future, I think it could be cool. But anyways, if you're new here and do want to see more of this stuff, make sure you guys subscribe with that bell notification on, and you'll definitely see more in the future. But take care, I'll catch you in the next vid, and I'm out. Peace.